Welcome to Underdog Rising with your host, Wade Posehn, where we ignite your journey from humble beginnings to greatness through inspiring tales of top executives and entrepreneurs. Welcome to this episode of Underdog Rising. In this episode, we're joined by Dr. Mark Leonard, a seasoned entrepreneur and certified high-performance coach with over 25 years of experience. Dr. Leonard helps leaders and teams unlock new levels of success through his deep expertise in organizational leadership and human performance. Dr. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Wade. Looking forward to being here.
As we kind of step into this and understand more about you, I'd love to hear your underdog story. And would you mind just taking some time to just quickly walk through like a summary of your career and where you started to where you are today so our listeners can kind of understand what you've been through?
Absolutely. It started by dating my high school sweetheart, and we got married 2 weeks after graduation. We got married at 18 years old, both my wife and I, and our first baby was born 3 months later. Now, for those of you that remember your biology classes, that is not a typical gestational period. So for us, we had to really get back to what were the most important things. We had now mouths to feed. And there were times I had 3 or 4 jobs just to make it through school. So as newlyweds at 18 years old and with a baby on the way just 3 months later, we had to do whatever was necessary to figure out the next steps and to grow up very, very quickly. For a period of time, I had 3 jobs while going to school. And I will tell you what, the most important thing I ever learned to do was janitorial work at 4 o'clock in the morning and at 11 o'clock at night. I'll tell you, there was something that I learned there that has helped me in every business and company that we've ever owned. And it was, I was willing to put in the work. And how could I ever expect someone else to do something that I'm not willing to do? And it doesn't matter what it is. Do you know I own a dessert? One of our businesses is a dessert shop. And actually, we own a couple of them. And I clean toilets. As a CEO of multi-million-dollar companies, I have gone in and I clean toilets and I teach other people how to do it. I am not above that. Honestly, I feel that has what is a big difference maker for me with my coaching, with my training, with my speaking, is I can sit here and say, I've been in their shoes. Not only have I been there, I'm still willing to live in part of those shoes. Now, my shoes are probably more expensive than they used to be, but that doesn't really matter. I still wear shoes. I still put on pants the same way as everyone else, but I was willing to do whatever it takes. So from a career perspective, it took me 10 years to get through my bachelor's degree. And then when I hit my master's degree, it was go time. I had 4 kids. Excuse me. By this point, when I started my master's degree, we had 6 kids.
Wow. That's a busy schedule.
Oh, it's a busy schedule. But you know what? You know what I found? The best people that know how to delegate are the ones that have the busy schedules.
I would say so too. Yes. Because there isn't enough time within their day-to-day activities to get certain things done. So they have to kind of be forced to delegate.
Yeah. So then I went through my master's degree, and the 2.5-year master's degree program, I did it in a year and a half because I didn't have a choice. When your back is up against the wall, it's go time. You just work. It doesn't matter. I didn't care what the world was saying. I didn't even care what my parents were saying. I was more concerned with how do I feed my wife and 6 babies? And I would go and bust my butt. But there's one other thing I did. And I know you asked for my career. And I think a career is more important when you look at the human behind the career. There was one thing I learned when I was working that hard on my master's degree, and it was never lose focus on the things that were most important. it was okay for me to work 100 hours a week. And I've done it multiple times in my life. But I also planned, go back to what's the most important tool? I planned in my calendar to take my wife on a date every week and to take her away every quarter on an overnight. And that's my career. That's my real career. Now, sure, I've done a lot of great things. I've spoken around the world. I've been brought in by large corporations. That's great. My real career is how could I be successful while being married and raising kids? That's my real career.
I love that. I kind of want to lean into that a little bit. For anybody that's out there, right? There are certain folks that would be, graduating college in a similar situation to you, or perhaps they're young professionals, starting out with a family, but also kind of trying to work their way through a career. In the essence of planning your work and working your plan, do you have any sort of tips or recommendations on sort of how to lay out that structure, or is it just do what you have to do, but isolate what your values are and make sure that those are a priority?
Great question. And the answer is yes to all of that. However, I didn't learn that when I was young. And that was something I wish I would have known when I was younger and starting off in my career, that I needed to protect and put at the very center the things that I valued the most. And the things that I valued the most were my wife and my kids and my faith. That was what needed to be at the very center. And it wasn't until I was older that I recognized that that was the secret to success. In fact, that was the switch from being successful to then being very successful and owning multiple corporations. It was put the thing I value most at the center, and everything else fits around. There's only so many hours in the day. Now, with that being said, I have missed kids' soccer games. I have missed being there for different graduation activities because I was traveling internationally. And there's some things I couldn't control, but when I was home, and I was absolutely dialed in.
And I think that's important, because I think there's a lot of outside distractions that can come into play. But when you're actually focused, when you're in that element, I think there was somebody else a while ago that was sort of discussing and mentioning that the best way to be successful this day and age, especially with all of the distractions we go through, is to be present, right? Because there are, to your point, with earlier, there's so many notifications going on in our lives that being present is extremely beneficial, because so many people are answering emails, getting distracted by notifications, right? You're being pulled into their timeline. And by being present, you're absorbing more information where you can be a little bit more laser focused when getting things done.
You've just put that really perfectly. And I call that chaos, because this world is revolving around chaos. Every great movie, story, every great activity that you go to has some form of chaos and triumph. If you look at epic movies, they have the same pattern of someone that was unexpected. Oh, wow, they've now been called or chosen, or they found themselves in a new situation and they're going to do this, but they don't have the skill set. So how do they actually build this? And then they start to build it, and then more chaos hits, right? And there's a disruption with family. There's a death in the family. Oh, wait, no. Hallmark story. You are actually the heir of a long lost cousin in, I don't know, whatever, Livonia, and you are now a prince or a princess. Congratulations. How do you handle all this? Well, it's funny because life actually mimics the same artistry. We have chaos in our life. If you look at our world right now, and if you turn on the news, every story is about chaos. There's tragedy, there's difficulty, there are things demanding people's time, and horrendous actions are happening. And yet, we were built to have peace. We were built to be in control. And I've created a framework about moving from chaos to control. All right. So in this model of moving from chaos to control, there are several different elements. And the very first element of control, and if you think about this mnemonic, control, CONTROL, I'll kind of walk through each of these. The very first aspect of being able to feel like you are more in control is a choice. You have to choose. You have to choose if you're going to be a victim or if you're going to come with solutions. And honestly, with my employees, when they come to me and they say, hey, Mark, I am so sorry. I screwed up on this. I made this mistake, but this is what I've done to fix it. That's what I'm more concerned with. The employees that try to hide the mistakes, try to cover up the things that they have done, I have eventually let them go because they are choosing to be in a situation as a victim. They're not bringing up solutions. And one of the things that I talk about is, as a business owner, I will hire slow, but fire quick. Now, I will coach and I want people to grow. And as long as they take responsibility, I will take that. But I had to talk with one of my employees the other day, and she said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I finally looked at her. I said, honestly, if you tell me you're sorry one more time, I'm going to fire you. What I'd much rather see is, hey, Mark, this is what I did. I don't know how to solve this. What could I do differently? And so I coached her on how to get out of that victim mode and back into a solution mode. One of the things I love to ask employees is, if you were boss, what would you do? Do you know 9 times out of 10, they're right, or they come up with something I hadn't thought of? And my response, and by the way, I have 2 multi-million-dollar businesses that are run entirely by teenagers. If you walked into one of my stores right here in Arizona right now, you would see teenagers at the counter. And I tell them, I give you permission to make mistakes. I want you to make a mistake.
And that's huge, because we learn by doing, and often at times there's going to be mistakes that come across, but you're investing in that individual's future. But to your point earlier as well, right? They will be able to learn from that. They'll be able to grow, but then you're also giving them that sense of control, right? And then they will want to work in that business as if it's their own.
Yes. They now have buy-in. If they're providing solutions, they have buy-in. If they feel a victim, it's an adversarial relationship. And how often do you stay in an adversarial relationship? By the way, this is what's so fascinating about this. You can apply this model to your business. You can apply this to your own self-development. You can apply it to your marriage. You can apply it to every aspect of your life. The second part is so vital. So the first was control. The first part of control is choose. Are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a solutions? The second is observe. You need to recognize how your actions, your thoughts, your conversations are impacting the chaos. And one of the most important things to observe is that running dialogue that so many people have in their head. And if you find yourself moving towards conversations that are, you failed, you'll never do this, why did you even choose this career? You are on a quick path to a mindset implosion. So observing, what is your language in your mind? What are the words coming out of your mouth, and how are you impacting the chaos? Another quick story. I drove up. The employees were not expecting me to show up, and I came in, and there they were, 4 kids just kind of sitting there on their phones, and I was like, "Are you joking me? They're just sitting there at the front counter, They're on their phones, and I walk around, and another one was sitting on the ground. And I looked at them and said, "Oh, hi, are you on break?" And they're, "Oh, no, Mark, I'm so sorry. No, I'll put my phone away right now." And I thought, man, okay, just breathe, Mark, just breathe, because everything in me was like, fire them all, just fire. They're stealing from you. Just get rid of them. I waited till the store died down, and I said, I would really like to have a conversation with you. Let's go up to the couch. I've got couches in my dessert shop. And I pulled them up, and I sat them down, and I looked at them, and I'm really direct. I said, I want you to know you have been stealing from me. And they're teenagers, okay? These poor kids. And I started getting very agitated and angry. And I realized I was contributing to the chaos. And once I realized that, I stopped and I said, hang on, I really need to apologize. You don't deserve a leader who would come in and, although I'm mad, say the things I just said. That's not okay. So please accept my apology. Can we start over? And this is what I'd like to do. And I sat back and I started asking them questions. I was observing what I did wrong in my leadership. It changed everything.
I think it's extremely important to have that self recognition and observation, right? Even within yourself, but then also understanding and observing what those individuals might be going through and understanding their world so that we're not contributing to that chaos. But I'll let you keep going through there because I know there's a few to control.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I, as a former professor who taught a 4-hour MBA class, I will do my best to, just be parsimonious and bring it down to the bare bones here. If someone wants more information, they can reach out to me and we can have a more in-depth conversation. So the next part of control is N, and it's nourishment. And here's what's interesting. So often we talk about nourishment that has to do with our diet or going to the gym, but also equally as important is sunlight. Getting outside into the sunlight is vital. If you live in a state, and thankfully I do not, that observes the change of the clock twice a year, I hear people complain and they say, "Oh, I woke up so tired and I feel so off." There's a quick and easy way to fix this, and I'll give it to you right here. If you have a change in time, and it doesn't matter if you are traveling, if you're going 1 hour, 3 hours, or 15 hours, which is what I used to do when I traveled over to Japan, Korea, Australia, the very thing you will do is when you land, you will stay up until bedtime. I don't care how tired you are. Do not take a nap. And the next morning, as soon as you get up, get into the sunlight as early as you can. Get that natural light coming in. And what that does is your body reacts. Great study out of Stanford Medical School with their ophthalmology program there that showed that as soon as you get into the sunlight, it anchors your circadian rhythm.
Fascinating.
So if you're having a problem changing with those time zone changes or traveling in jet lag, sunshine will make a huge difference for you.
There's a lot of folks this day and age that don't do that, especially when they wake up. A lot of folks push the limit, wake up, get right in front of their laptops to do some work, and that blue light and all that just throws off everything. So it's very important. I appreciate you sharing that.
You bet. The next one, T, transformation. Focus on what you're learning. Again, I have never failed in business. I've only learned. Transformation is different than transaction. A transactional style of leadership or a transaction is exactly that. I give you something, you give me something, right? I give you money, you give me dinner, whatever the case may be. I give you money, you produce widgets. That's transaction. Transformational leadership, and this was a big portion of my doctoral studies with sales teams, had to do with how can you create transformational followers. So as a leader, how do you get someone to transform and change and take responsibility. And you do that through a coaching style of leadership. But when you do that transformation, focus on what they're learning, focus on growth, focus on how they're going to morph over time, the sales went up, attrition went down.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
So 2 key metrics there. Yeah. So transformation is amazing. Next one, another part of my, actually these next few are all part of my dissertation and my studies, is resiliency. That's your ability to bounce back. And, if we're thinking about chaos, couple quick things that you could do to help control chaos is with resiliency, obviously set goals. Everyone does that, but do you embrace change? Do you actually sit here and say, you know what, this change is forcing me to grow, to learn, to adjust? And the more that you think of change in that form, the quicker your adaptability and growth metrics will be.
This is extremely powerful information, right? Even into what you're doing is you've got that word control, right? In and of itself, it's an incredibly powerful word, but I love how you are kind of extending that into other words that all tie into that, because we live in that world of chaos, like you mentioned. So no, please continue. This is exceptional.
I've done a lot of studies for many, many years on this very thing. And, a great metric of one's ability to succeed in life is, are they resilient? And the next one is equally, are they optimistic? Actually intentionally look for positive outcomes. A great way to do that is gratitude. Another great way is avoid pessimism. You brought up a minute ago, and it took everything in me not to just bite on your comment. And it was, so many people wake up and the first thing they do is they hit that blue light, right? They turn on the computer and they're right back at it. That's fantastic. If you love slavery, keep doing that. But if you want to transform and you want to have happiness and joy in your life, then here's some other options for you. Avoid pessimism.
Yes. I mean, there's that age old saying, you become the byproduct of who you surround yourself with, et cetera. But this day and age, I think people let go of that when it even comes through social media. If you're consuming negative content, it's going to affect you in a negative way. Focus and, it goes back to what you're talking about earlier about your time being very precious. And that also, it can set the trajectory for your day in a negative emotional pathway instead of priming it for something positive, right? Even in what you say, it's not failure, it's learning. And I think that's why so many people try things in life, but never end up following them through or never trying again, because it's that mental reframing of the mind before they step into anything.
Yeah. It has been the biggest differentiator. I was talking with one of the mindset coaches for the Texas Rangers, and some people consider me a mindset coach, and I absolutely am. I am a mindset coach for entrepreneurs. That's really my very core practice. And I was talking with him, and he was talking about this is when they won the World Series just a couple of years ago. And he said, it's really fascinating the mindset work that goes into working with these pitchers. And again, great studies have been done. And this again goes back to that optimism. See, someone that doesn't have a growth mindset, although probably an overused term at this point, but someone that sits in a very fixed or in a very negative mindset or feels pessimistic often look at every point in a game or a match as, ooh, I failed. And as soon as you do that, you've actually taken yourself out of the game. You've completely eroded any chance that you have of getting control and moving back. The most successful people are the ones that go, all right, that was just one point. That was one sales presentation. That was one phone call. That was one meeting. That doesn't define my day. That was one. And the greatest people, the ones that are the most successful, frankly, the ones that drive the Lambos, are the ones that are sitting here and they go, you know what? That was one. I lost that one, but I've got the next one. They have an absolute belief in themselves. It's an optimism. In your marriage, we've been married 33 years. And, with 6 kids, with our 13th grandchild on the way, with 35 employees, with 3 corporations, people look at me and they go, how do you get so much done? And they go, your marriage is so idyllic. How did you do that? Let me give you a little secret. My marriage was not always great. The reason why we didn't get divorced in the first year is my wife and I were not talking enough to express that was our feeling. The reason why we didn't get divorced on year 12, and it was close. We had some interesting times. My wife I came home from work, and next to my bed was a poster. And in the middle of a poster, she wrote my name, Mark, and just one thing that she loved or liked or appreciated about me. And the second day I got home, there was another one. And the third, another one. And suddenly I started thinking, wow, she sees me as that. What do I see me as? And what do I see her as? And so I went and got a poster board and I wrote her name. Her name's Becky. And I wrote Becky and I wrote something I love about her. And I will tell you what, that was the pivotal moment that changed our marriage. Optimistically looking at our strengths and the things that we appreciate and love about each other instead of what we were frustrated with. By the way, you just totally got free stuff that I teach. We take executives and couples out. We're getting ready, next year. We're going to take them out to Hawaii for 3 days to workshop on marriage, because most of my clients are very successful, and the reason they want to be successful is to protect their marriage, and yet that part's failing. So I coach them on how to get back to that strong marriage.
Wow, that's incredible. Because that's a very important part. I mean, when you even look statistically speaking at a lot of the people who are extremely wealthy in the world, a lot of them are married individuals, right? And I think it's an important thing, whether you're looking at stability, you're looking at support, it's, help what you're pushing each other along the way. I think it's extremely fascinating that that's something you focus on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. I've taken a lot of time on optimistic. Let me just hit the last one really quick, of control, and its language. This goes back to the language that we feed ourselves. And one of my favorite things is when I hear my clients, these are CEOs, but by the way, I've also had unemployed moms, right? I've coached everything from best-selling authors and people running for US public office to, neighbors down the road who were just trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life, and everything in between. And the thing I continue to catch is language. And the language we use really defines our thoughts and our actions create our habits, and our habits create our success. So if your language is, oh, I will be, or someday in the future, I will be happy when, those are all words that tell me that they don't believe it, and 2, they're stuck. Soon as they start framing things in I am phrases, very direct, it changes everything with them. Suddenly, they're going to start, waking up in the day and saying, I am successful. And by the way, for those of you that are like, oh, sure, Mark, you were fed with a golden spoon, filed bankruptcy twice, and the third time we didn't file bankruptcy was 7 years ago. We were delivering groceries for other people, and we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford our own groceries 7 years ago, and I now have 3 successful businesses. I will tell you, the mindset piece in this control model that I'm talking about was the difference. Why did I come up with this? Because it's what I did and what I've been proven through my studies and my, on sales teams, to shift people from chaos to an absolute control. Other people say freedom. Other people say success. We all want to feel successful. This is how we do it. The language that we utilize if it is direct, affirmative, if it is planted in the present, it changes how you act. Your thoughts change your words, change your habits, change your outcomes.
That's absolutely powerful because even when you look at, right, if we want to envision something, when you see how water reacts to different elements of sound, right, and we are 75 to 80% of water ourselves, when you even think of our thoughts that are resonating through our entire human body, that is being inputted into our system that is internally affecting ourselves, which to your point, to words, to habits, to outcomes, which is just so profound. And I appreciate you sharing that because, sometimes there's not enough tangible things for folks to focus on or to implement into their lives to help them work towards success. Right. And I think it does. It starts by what are you talking to yourself before you go to bed, as well as when you wake up and you're starting to prime your day.
Yeah, and that mindset is the differentiator. How you think, how you process. By the way, Wade, I didn't ask you ahead of time. I'm going to put it out here. I have a downloadable that gives you the 3 uncommon ways to immediately and positively change your impact. If you want to positively change your impact and change your mindset, then go to thehappinessbreakthrough.com/uncommon, right? Because these are the 3 uncommon ways to immediately and positively change your mindset. That's the differentiator. You want to know how people are going to be so successful? They believe they're going to be successful. And their actions prove it, their calendars prove it. Go back to what's my favorite productivity tool? My calendar. You'll be able to know very quickly if I am being a victim to other people's schedules or what exactly I'm working on and what's the next big thing that I'm focused on pushing and changing. My calendar dictates that.
That's incredible. And I'd like you were talking about mindset, right? And there's a lot of different elements to focus on. And you touched on a ton already, which is exceptional. But just for the listeners today, like what's the biggest mindset shift that like allowed you to reach the next level in your career so that they can understand what that is and potentially incorporate it in their lives?
This happened a couple of years ago and it was May. And my wife and I have affectionately called it Mindset May. We put together for ourselves, it was interesting. We've always been successful, even though we filed bankruptcy. I'm the guy who has gained it all, lost it all. And it's phenomenal skill set to be able to do it multiple times. And the great thing is I know what it takes to be successful. And every time I've gotten better. And that Mindset May, I really started looking at a relentless pursuit of my mind, a relentless pursuit of my mind. Whenever I had a negative thought come in, whenever I sat here and said, oh man, I can't write that book or I can't present to that company, they're too big. I instantly went, whoa, I need to be relentless in my pursuit of my mind. Am I going to control it or is it going to control me? And if it's controlling me, that's because there's other voices out there and I am not going to accept those. I only listen to 2 voices. One, I listen to my God and I'm a faithful man. And the second one I listen to is me. And if those are in alignment, I'm on the right path for me.
So there are folks who know that they will allow the outside voices to influence and impact their lives. But if you know where you want to go, lay out that plan and don't let anyone try and deviate you from it. And that means sacrifices, right? Ultimately, if you've got to work on the weekends, plan your calendar and schedules. But I really like how you focused on the beginning. Don't forget to prioritize what you value the most. Always make time for it, but be present so that that time is extremely valuable. Put your phone aside, detach from notifications, and spend that diligent time, right? But earlier, also, you spoke on your thoughts lead to your words, which lead or actions, which lead to your habits, and then ultimately your outcomes. So, sort of on the habit piece, right? That defines who we are, right? Even when people aren't looking. So, from your opinion, what habits or routines do you think are foundational for someone that is striving to perform at their peak?
I mentioned earlier, I have ADHD. And as such, I have an ability to do a lot of things and sometimes very, very well, and other times very confused by information. The habits I have put in place work with my ADHD. For one, we're talking about a very simplistic thing. Everything has a place and everything in its place. I have had to get absolutely dialed in. I haven't lost my keys in years because I know exactly where they are at all times. By the way, my phone, my watch, the simple things, right? My car. I will tell you what, this is going to sound ridiculous. I will circle the lot to make sure I am parked on the same row at Costco. I only park in one of two rows, and it doesn't matter where in the world I go to, they're always one of the same two rows. Why? Because I've taken the thinking and the concern and having to rely upon everything else to remind me. I've systematized aspects of my life. And once I began to do that, it freed up the mind space to be creative.
Yeah, and also the energy that it takes to make a decision or a choice, right? If you're throwing in variables, your Costco point, if you're going to Costco and every single time you're trying to find a different parking spot, then you've got to not only find that parking spot, but you've got to remember where it is on your way out. Whereas if you're like, it's in one of these two, I don't even have to think about it. You're not thinking about it. It just is where it is, and it streamlines your life and makes you even more effective.
Yeah, it really does. So, by the way, here's what's interesting. We are biologically attuned to do that. If you look at, if you've ever lived in the mountains and you had deer or elk or some other type of wildlife, they create trails. Well, why is a trail there? The trail is there because they know that if they go off the trail, there's a bear, a mountain lion, something that is going to attack and kill them. We have been biologically attuned to create trails in our life. In fact, for those of you that commute, how many of you go the exact same route every single time? And I bet some of you have even driven all the way to work and you got there and you went, I don't remember a single light. Did I stop? Right? You get in this autopilot. We are biologically wired to do this. Yet inputs are telling us to do other things. So I try to utilize some of that to free up my space so that I can be creative, so that I can very quickly go back to quickly fail, quickly learn from something. Hey, that didn't work. A/B testing. A/B testing works in advertising. Guess what? It works in your life too.
That it does. Find what works and keep doing it.
But be relentless with it.
That's true. I like that part. Yes.
Find what works for you and be relentless. Don't listen to those outside voices. Don't listen to the naysayers. And by the way, the louder the naysayers get, you're either doing something completely crazy and it's going to be epic, or you're going to be on TikTok fails. We're not sure which one, but that's okay. Those are both measures of success. Don't do something stupid, y'all. Don't put yourself in danger. But you know what I'm saying? I've had my parents tell me I was crazy. Now my dad is a business partner.
They'll say you're crazy in the beginning, and then they'll ask you how you did it once you're there, right? So, yeah, I wanted to. You touched on obviously the trail part, right, and yeah, sort of going down that path of repetition, which ultimately expenses less energy, right? And often at times in the workforce or whatever people are involved in, eh, sometimes they might lack motivation, right? They might fall out of that energy alignment to keep going. So, like, what advice would you give to someone that might be struggling to maintain that energy and motivation at work?
Yeah, great. Oh, I love this question so much because I think every single one of my clients, every one of my coaching clients, and every single person when I've spoken to audiences have had that time in their life when they just don't feel motivated, right? They wake up and they go, how many of you have said, I don't feel like going today. I don't feel like going. And so one of the things that you need to do is step back for a moment and ask yourself, am I avoiding something? Am I not going because I don't want to have a conversation? I don't want to see somebody. I don't want to work on a project. What is it that I am avoiding? Once you know what you're avoiding, if that is the case, it could be, then you need to frame the type of fear that you have. All right, are you afraid that you don't know how to do it? Or are you afraid that if you do it, you'll be so successful, you're not sure how you'll manage it? Think about that for a second. Am I not doing it because I'm worried that if it works, I won't have the time? I won't be able to manage everything. I won't be able to take it to the next level. I don't have the right support around me, right? There's a lot of things that could be playing in this. But taking that time to really explore why someone is avoiding something, or maybe it's not avoiding at all. Maybe it's because you've already made a choice to be somewhere else. One of my favorite meetings I ever had, I was working at a very, very large, very well-known corporation that has been around for over 100 years. And I was consulting with their leadership group. These were vice presidents. And I walked in and I was talking about culture, and we're looking at how to create a more vibrant culture for them. And I started the meeting by saying, if you are looking for another job right now, quit now. You're the problem. Get out of the way, because you are going to hinder this, and you are either going to have buy-in or you're going to be bought out. You need to figure out which way you're going to go. And now see, I'm at a point in my career, I could say things a lot of other people can't. I recognize that. I recognize that I can say things and get away with it when someone else can't. So if you're early in your career, perhaps then it's for yourself. Am I fully invested in this? And if so, why? Why is this so important for me? What is it that I'm going to learn from this? Maybe it's not the company. Maybe it's a skill set you're going to learn. Maybe it's just a stepping stone to the next piece. Dial into those things. Why are you there? And if you're there, then you need to choose, go back to choice, right? Victim or you're going to choose solutions. You need to choose if you're going to be in or not. And if you're going to be in, be all in. You know what? The world is made up with mediocrity. We have a saying in our home: mediocrity is the number one failure.
I like that. I really like that.
Mediocrity. But it doesn't matter. When my kids were young, with our 6 kids, guess how much money we paid them for allowance? 0. We would tell them, you want something? Earn it. Go make it. Go create something. If you really want something, go create something. By the way, I've now multiple of my children own companies. So I think we did this part right. Go create something. And my son, he said, you know what? I'm going to start a lawn care business. Great. And he got a couple lawns, and then he hired his younger brother. And then the older of the 2 boys, he realized lawn care was not for him. He had really bad allergies. Not great health-wise for him to be there. The younger boy, I think he was 9 or 10 at the time, he says to his older brother, I'll buy your business. He grew that. By the time he was 13 years old, he had 3 employees. Go create what you want. Stop waiting for a handout. If you're avoiding work, if you don't want to go in, if you don't have the motivation, there's something going on inside that's telling you that you can't, you shouldn't, that there's a voice in your head that's saying, I don't deserve this. You need to stop that right now. Because I got to tell you something. You're here. You are here right now. You're here for a purpose. And if you don't know it, go align yourself with people that know it for you. Borrow their power, borrow their words, borrow their excitement. If you're feeling like you just can't do it one more day, get around people that will cheer you on. Because those people will be the ones that when you're successful, will still know you for you and not because you're successful. I work very hard in our community to not be known for what I do on this podcast. I work hard in our community to be known for what I give to schools, for what I give to teach teenagers how to run businesses. I want that to be what I'm known for. I'm passionate about that. Figure out what you're passionate about. You will never work another day in your life.
At times that's challenging for folks to understand, right? Because they're like, well, I'm passionate about X, Y, and Z. How do I take that and actually put that into something where it can, build up into something great? But I think over time, it'll come to you. You have to do that introspective work, peel it apart, find a way, right? Just like you were saying, if it's not out there, go build what you want, right? Go after it. So it can be created. You just got to be a little bit creative behind the scenes to get there. So I also, we kind of touched on a lot of success points, but if you could sort of summarize one principle that drives success in any career, what would it be?
Belief in you. I want to hit that one more time. Believe in you. And if no one else believes in you, get out your mirror, get out your iPhone, record a video of you and believe in you. The craziest inventions in the world, the things that we now take for granted, lights, air conditioning, running water, were all developed by crazy people. Now, I say that not from the psychological, and by the way, I made that mistake one day speaking at a psychology convention, and I said, I used the word crazy and I got lambasted. That was not what I meant. And my PR person was like, don't say that again. But here I am saying it again. Sorry. Here's the deal. Believe in you. If you have something inside of you and you believe it will change the world or make you happy or you're passionate about it, don't worry about the money. Figure it out. If you don't have the funds to build what it is that you want, I was just talking with someone a couple days ago, and she wants to build a bar and a restaurant in her town. And I said, okay, what skill set do you have around that? She goes, I like to drink. I said, great. That's a great place to start. Fantastic. You have something. Why? What is it about the bar that you want to create? She said, because in our little town, we don't have a place for people to connect. I went, oh, that's really why. She has a desire for connection. So my encouragement to her and to everyone listening is figure out what you're passionate about. And then don't worry about the no, or I don't have, or I'm not sure if I can come up with it. Start working towards it. Start working towards it. It takes about 10 years to become an overnight success. So put in the reps. A buddy of mine, Anthony Trucks, he says, do the dark work. Do the work that no one else sees. Be willing to sit at home in that office, pound away on that keyboard, pound away on something that is just going to fuel you with passion. And don't take no for an answer, because no is often not yet.
I'd agree with that, because often in times you see, even when you're getting started, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the process is you learn while doing, and you will slowly but surely uncover everything that you need to know about that industry or something that you want to create. You will be able to solve every problem. Sometimes it might take a little bit more time than others, but you will be able to overcome any situation you face head on. But to your point earlier, be, an investigator. Dive into yourself a little bit more. Understand the why behind things, but ultimately just apply yourself, be diligent, and then things will come into be.
And be willing to fail. It's okay to fail. By the way, every single one of you has fallen down at least once in your life. I've never met any of child who went from, mother's womb to running. We all fall down. You've been doing it your whole life. Get back up. Get back up. It's okay. Guess what? You got skin knees. That hurt just then. But that's it. And if you fall, it does. And if you fall in front of someone else and they laugh, turn to them and say, I know, epic, right? I hope you got that because we'll both be famous. I hope you filmed that. Like, call it out. It doesn't matter. Stop worrying about what other people think or say or do. Start worrying about your value set and why you're passionate about it and focus on that. For me, it's my God and my family. That's it. Everything else fits on the outside. And then be passionate and relentless. Don't let someone else's fear stop your progress.
A lot of people get hung up on the element of change, right? You to become the person you want to be, you have to let go and change certain elements of who you once were, right? So, like, from your perspective, what is the most important aspect of change that college graduates or young professionals should be aware of?
When I was growing up, the most abhorrent of foods was broccoli. For the first 10 years of our marriage, anytime my dear new bride cooked broccoli, I thought for sure it would have been better to burn the house down. But I kept trying it. And one day, I liked it. Don't stop trying. We change. Your cells change constantly. You are not the same person that you were yesterday biologically. Skin is sloughed off. Things have changed. You've consumed new food. You've excreted old food. We are constantly evolving and changing. And yet, we sometimes believe that, well, I tried that once and I didn't like it. Really? I tried sales once and I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And now I'll talk to anyone in the world because I have a sales conversation every single day. It's simply this. Hey, sweetheart, what do you want for dinner? It's a conversation about influence. Now, there's always one thing that she and I will agree upon, and it's sushi. However, she didn't always like sushi. She just kept trying. So my answer is, don't give up. Keep trying. One day, you're going to like it, and it's going to change everything. Business advice through food. Look at, I must own a dessert store. No, it's so fascinating. I've traveled the world, and I was sitting in South Korea, and I was the only American there, and everyone else, and we're sitting on the floor, and I watched the guy across from me, and he picked up some of the food, and I watched how he ate it. And I was like, well, he did it. So I did exactly what he did. And the whole table, there's 8 of us, got quiet. And he looked at me. He said, you're from America, right? Yeah. Why did you just do that? How did you know to eat that? I said, I watched you. And he told me, we will trust you because you did what we do. I learned a very quick lesson there about growth. I had never tried it before. Thankfully, I loved it, and it was amazing, and it's become one of my favorite foods in the whole world. But I had to be willing to try, and sometimes you have to keep trying. Don't give up.
It is that resilience piece, right? And that's you've spoke about that multiple times, and I think that that is something that people need to focus on, because it's not the end of your world, right? It might be the end of a world, but it's fine. To your point, we constantly change, we constantly evolve, and time heals all wounds in that sense, because new memories replace old memories, and the new tasks that you step forth into to take on will so far supersede the ones that you were involved in, but um yeah, I wanted to also touch on something that's very interesting, with everything that's currently evolving within, remote work, people working in office, etc. Like, so one's work environment also matters to a certain extent, right? So like, how does one's environment, whether it be the workplace or relationships, etc., like influence their ability to be a high performer?
Great question. One of the things I do with my clients, often because so many people are in the remote workforce now, is what do you want your environment to look like? And years ago, I was in a career that was very white shirt and tie. You could wear any color tie you want, but the shirt had to be white. That was mandated. And it was that type of, IBM had kind of that same philosophy. And so I decided when I broke off on my own, I would never wear a white shirt again. However, I learned what I do like, and I've allowed my style of clothing, of work environment, of books, of decor to reflect more and more of who I am. And the more I express that, the greater at home and the greater peace I have in my work environment. By the way, there was a period of time when I was doing a lot of Zoom calls, just like everyone else. And, you wear shorts and flip flops, and maybe you'd have a dress shirt on. And as soon as the call was off, you took it off. I finally got to the point that, you know what, if Mark Zuckerberg can just wear the same stupid sweatshirt day in and day out, I may not be at his level, but I share the same first name. So there must be something there. I will create what I want for me. Now, with that being said, I do know that there are certain rules when I go into certain businesses, and I don't want to offend. So I will wear what is appropriate to their environment. But my home environment has been created very specifically to mimic my values, the things that I want, the things that are most important to me. And they change. They change. Yeah. Depending upon the time of year, my clothing is Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops or cowboy boots and button-downs. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with me, but I'm very eclectic. However, it's my eclectic style. Figure out what yours is. Figure out what you value, right? This goes back to your value statements. I value faith and family, but other than that, everything fits on the outside. Well, that's a really easy thing to say. If we have more time, I would go even deeper to say, you know what? I value certain things, right? I value certain things that speak of me and my value. I value cleanliness. I had 6 kids, 13th grandchild on the way. It's not always clean. We had 3 of our grandchildren visiting this weekend, and they all have disabilities. Our house is an absolute disaster. That's okay. It will get clean. Create the environment that you want and then work from there.
Even if an individual is within an organization, their environment to some degree can still be customized to their own, right? Whether you look at photos and desks, the desk layout, et cetera, they can kind of orchestrate it to that element as well. But I think even before that, going and joining an organization, look at the cultural beliefs, the backgrounds, how do they set up things, how do they respect their employees, et cetera. Look into that, see if it aligns with you, and then ultimately, right, decide if you want to step out and go be with that company. But I just wanted to ask, just for all of those that are listening today, from your perspective, what is a human performance expert?
The best way you could describe what I do is I listen to my clients, to who they are, and help them become the very best version of who they could be. Wherever that is, it doesn't matter. And as I said earlier, I've had people running for major US office, best-selling authors, CEOs of major health corporations. You know what? I've had unemployed moms, I mentioned that one earlier, or neighbors. I've also had some of my own employees, and I've coached them. To me, it's about this philosophy that my dad taught me. We would go camping in the mountains of Colorado, and every time we would go camping and we finish up, he'd say, okay, go clean up the campsite. And I cleaned it up. And he would look and he'd say, hey, did you get the trash that was in the fire pit? I went, Dad, it's in the fire pit. What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, you want to leave it better than you found it. That is what I do. I'm on a mission to leave people better than I found them. I don't know what better looks like for you or for anybody else, but you have an idea, and I help you achieve that. If you're looking to grow in your career or start off in your entrepreneurial journey, or you're on your journey and you are a CEO of your own business and you're finding you're totally, completely enslaved because freedom is not what you thought it would be, because suddenly things are out of control, right? You're finding that freedom is something only attainable in movies. I coach people on how to get that back and become the very best version of themselves. I use humor. I use very direct questions. But the thing I do the most is I connect with the individual. And it doesn't matter if it's in my one-on-one coaching or in my group coaching, or if I'm speaking on a stage with 5,000 or 10,000 people. It doesn't matter. It's about the individual that I see, and it's making eye contact and helping them become that next great version, because this world needs them to be better. This world needs you. This world needs you, every single one of you, to be the very best husband or wife, the very best employee, the very best CEO, the very best neighbor, the very best person in traffic during Christmas. The world needs you to step up, because there's not enough people stepping up. My call is a call to you to be better. My call and my desire is that this world changes because you decided to change your world. That's what I do as a human performance expert.
Dr. Mark, that is utterly exceptional. And I appreciate you spending your time here with us today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Where is a few places that people can go to connect with you if they want to engage and sort of, speak with you about optimizing their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. My website, thehappinessbreakthrough.com, fully spelled out, nothing like making a long URL even longer. Thehappinessbreakthrough.com, great place to go. On there, I also have all my social media links. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's The Happiness Breakthrough. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Happiness Breakthrough, not with the THE in front. Anyway, you can find me, or go Google Dr. Mark Leonard. You'll find me. I'm everywhere, and I'm local here to Arizona. However, I travel around the world. I have clients in all time zones around the world. I've done just about everything you can imagine, but go find me, go connect. Definitely go to thehappinessbreakthrough.com/uncommon and go download that mindset, those 3 uncommon things that you could do right now to positively impact your mindset. Go download that. And if that resonates with you, my contact is on there, and reach out then. There's one thing you will learn from me is I don't believe in hard sales. I believe in people willing to make a change or not. And if you are ready to make a change, or you want to set New Year's resolutions and you want to be part of the 1 or 2% that makes a difference, give me a call. If you want to be like the 86% that fail in the first 7 days, keep doing what you're doing. Either way, it's up to you.
And that's it. It is on the individual. It does come down to that individual level.
With that, thank you, Wade. This has been absolutely fantastic getting to know you, get to know your audience as someone who has been a professor at a university and taught MBA classes. I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the world needs you. Go be the very best version of you. Period. That's it.